And these trees, how old are these trees? Why haven't they fallen?
Oh, that's this great big book they were asking about. Here we go.
Christmas comes early. When you have a house this big, everybody puts their decorations up early. It's just what you have to do when you're
Not before
managing
Halloween,
this.
right?
I'm sorry?
Not before Halloween.
No, they wait until about the end, like the first week of November, and then we start going. Yeah, our goal is to have it all up. It's not all complete yet, but to have it all up by Thanksgiving weekend, and that's when we start our evening holiday theme tour. We have pictures of Mary and Davies in here with her friends putting together a jigsaw puzzle. There, on a few occasions after dinner, you might come in and find the furniture moved aside and the carpets rolled up, and you're dancing on the teak wood floor. It acted like a ballroom. It didn't happen a lot, but the teak floor was actually specifically chosen just in case Hearst wanted a dance floor. Anywhere else you go, it's a mixture of old and new. You've got modern furniture, more comfortable furniture. Barker Brothers maybe as one of the department stores that he used, and then you have his antiques. We have 400- and 500-year-old fire stalls lining. This is just wall paneling for him. It's decorative, beautifully carved wood. Came from churches in Spain 400 and 500 years ago, available on the art market, and so it gets used this way. Hearst didn't encourage his guests to sit in it. They certainly aren't very comfortable, but it's again it's
Yeah,
just
most of
decorative.
those churches, they were meant to be uncomfortable so that people didn't go see it.
During
Didn't
the
go
big
see it
mass or
during the
something.
mass.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there are. I don't think these have it. So the ones in the refectory have, when you flip them up, they have that little tiny ledge. So if you kind of like took your big robes and perched a little bit, nobody could tell. They were called mercy seats.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, so you'll see those.
Yeah, what's interesting
Yeah, what things
is that
cost.
my great-grandfather Lewis actually acquired a refectory table like this
Mhm.
because he had a little 27-room mansion in Garden County,
Okay.
and so with 4 master suites and their
Yeah,
own master.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's just interesting to see.
Similar to
It's similar, is darker and about 3/4 that size,
Mhm.
but again, it was a carved and very
Wow,
fancy
yeah.
refectory table.
Yeah. And did he use it like this, or actually just for meals, or
No, actually, they used it as a decorative side
Okay.
table, and they moved it in front of the fireplace for one time a year, and then on the other side of the room the other time a year. And
Okay.
it just had lamps and
Yeah.
decorative
Oh,
objects.
yeah, it's. The other side are all part of a set. There are 4 of what once were 10. They're from about 1550, woven in Flanders. They tell the story of Scipio Africanus, a general who, I don't know if it's like the Punic Wars or the Second Punic Wars. He's the man with the blue cape and the stars. He just tells different parts of his story, his history. And they first, I don't know where he purchases them from, but they are used a lot like the limestone on the outside of the house. We're in a giant concrete box, right?
Yeah.
That is just scoring and grouting to look like brick. It's not brick. When I started 15, 16 years ago, that tapestry was out for restoration. Periodically, they will go out, maybe for conservation at the Getty. That's an institution we do a lot of collaborating with. That one was out and at the Getty, and behind it is just a plain concrete wall. He knew right away they were going to hang in this room. Don't waste your time scoring and grouting behind it. You're just going to cover it up.
Yeah.
Or we didn't know we'd be marching thousands of people through here.
Yeah.
You know.
And having to
Right.
take them down and get restored.
Yeah.
So
They were cutting corners, you know.
And so the fireplace, over the fireplace, is that new or is that antique also? Is that old?
The whole thing is one piece. It's one antique. It's a 16th century French fireplace. It all came from the same chateau.
Wow.
Hearst purchased it. And you can see, when you look at a lot of these things, you can see all the pieces. And so it was all shipped in crates,
pieces.
and, like
Had
a
to be
puzzle. Yep.
reassembled. Yeah.
Yep.
What
Reassembled.
about the ceiling, the carved?
Stylistically, 16th century for the ceiling. It's parts of it are walnut, parts of it are plaster made to look like wood. This is one of those ceilings that Hearst wanted to use but wasn't large enough for the room. So his craftsmen, or Julia Morgan's craftsmen, are creating more pieces to fill that space.
Space, okay.
And then
So you
attach
match
the
it.
lights. And so this isn't weight bearing either. This is attached to the concrete ceiling above it. And I wish I could describe better than I can, but it's a series of ropes. It's very stable, but that's not the weight-bearing ceiling at all.
But
Yeah.
it's all got electrical and all,
Yeah.
all the modern
wired, yeah.
amenities. Yeah, yeah.
We don't turn the light bulbs on that are very close to the tapestries anymore.
Mm-hmm. This is where they do. This is where they do the annual fundraiser for Hearst Castle with Ann Hurst and
Yes,
the
yeah,
whole crowd.
all this comes out, and this year they did a table just like this one, except they had like 65 people on it, so it was.
Were you here for the auction?
No, I think the auction took place down at the dairy barn, so I don't get to go there.
Oh, okay. A whole different building. Okay.
I lost my invitation. I was really bummed to not get to see the reindeer at any of the first wedding. The reindeer were at the dairy barn too. I really wanted them to bring the reindeer up there. How many people did you include? About 4, between the photo shoots and the rehearsals and this wedding.
We saw some video, very remarkable. Mine.
Part of a piece of what Hearst collected was silver, and so you'll see it over in around, and that is about 100, maybe a little more than 100-year-old piece from Dublin, Ireland. So like a symbol of Parliament.
It looks like the golden lace that's in the English.
Oh, maybe they are all very
They always
similar
bring
in a
lace
way.
in
Yeah.
for.
Yes, exactly. So that's a copy of the official one of Dublin, the city of Dublin, when I first purchased that, I think in the 30s. There's a story from the actor Joel. I'm forgetting which name. I know, right? He stayed here with his wife. They were given the whole suite. They couldn't use the separate rooms if they wanted to. They had the whole suite. And he said his wife complained all night that she could hear a lion roaring. And he thought she was crazy. But then in the morning when they awoke, he stepped out to look into the rear courtyard. And he claimed there was a lion in a cave. We've got wall hangings here just to cover the concrete, right? It's that concrete box. Concrete, steel reinforced, the sturdiest material you can use in earthquake territory, right? So that's why they're using that, but they have to dress it up. These are modern reproductions. The originals are about 300 years old and it's really starting to show their age. We have a great conservation staff. You can see some of their work. If you could kind of look closely, you can see netting has been placed over the fabric. They do as much as they can to preserve the original materials, and then when that's no longer possible, then
I could see when you
reproduction.
told people like it was just plain old concrete, but people didn't believe you.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, the guide leads the way. The tail end of the group is like, I don't know if I believe that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Telltale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So very similar. The 2 bedrooms, they all share. The 2 bedrooms share the same ceiling. Even there was enough left over that they were able to use it in 2 places.
I think this is a his and hers.
Yeah, we have it set up that way. We have this really wonderful program here, the Living History program that's primarily run with volunteers. And we get so many amazing donations of 1930s clothing from just people who come up on tour, people who work here, inherit a big trunk full of stuff and they give it to us. And so we'll put things on display. It really helps bring it to life. And then for our evening tours, they get dressed up, and so you'll walk through and they're playing poker and they're pretending to have cocktails, and that really helps set the stage. And if you look straight across the bedrooms where you are, but it's the same for all of them, you can see a matching hallway on the other side of the window. The one across from us is open. The one where we are, obviously, is not glassed in. So while we're in here, it is okay if you want to walk off the carpet a little bit. Just be careful not to walk on the fringe of the Persian carpet, so you can kind of step over that. But you're welcome to walk over to the bookcases if you want to take a closer look. And unless we get another tour up here, and then I'll let you know.
Okay.
John, you just stepped on the fringe.
The fringe is down here, Jerry.
This is the main library. More than 4,000 books in this library. William Randolph Hearst collected books. His mother also collected books. Some of these come from her own stash as well. The bookcases were inspired by an antique bookcase Hearst owned.
Yeah, my great-grandfather Lewis had the largest library in Maine.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Largest
yeah.
private library.
Largest private library in Maine, yeah. Very,
Yeah.
very similar. And he collected first editions. He had 3 Gutenberg Bibles. My dad and 2 uncles each got one of those.
Oh, really?
And they each of them donated to a church,
Oh, wow. Okay.
Episcopal
Okay.
churches.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was quite a book collector as well. So I'm quite familiar with it. I actually have a few of my great-grandfather's books.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I have one
Okay.
beautiful set of, they're all bound with leather and all this sort of stuff. It's beautiful.
Books really were beautiful. I mean, they really were beautifully made. And you go back far enough, and they're hand painted, and it's. I can see why some assembly room, and they'll have like a vacuum cleaner on it, and they're like vacuuming out the higher shelves, and it just incredible
Yeah.
amount of work.
All the
What do you think,
bases
Percy?
and stuff.
At one time, Hearst had a few hundred Greek faces in his collection. There are now, I think, I want to say less than 150, and that's what you see displayed in here. They're all anchored down to the shelf up there with quake wax, so they should stay put if we have an earthquake.
Yeah, 'cause they're valuable.
Yeah, the oldest one goes back, it's the amphora in the corner over there. It's about 2,800 years old. That'll be the oldest one. He wasn't praised a lot for what he collected. He was sending things away and to other museums, and he gave a bunch of the Greek pots to the Met in New York, and the curator there that received that collection said it really was some of the finest Greek pottery he had seen. So I always like to tell that because it's an example of somebody from that world actually recognizing that perhaps he was more skilled in selecting or telling people to select things for him. So it's one thing that apparently he got right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're gonna we'll head upstairs. Mr. Hearst stayed in this room. Mary and Davy stayed in this room. We can actually just start off in Hearst's bedroom if you want. His family donated some clothing to us, so what you see hanging in his closet used to be his.
This was his room.
Yes.
Not bad.
Yeah. The Gothic suite obviously gives its name because of its design more similar to the Gothic period.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of heavier in its feeling a little bit, a lot of arches. You see a lot of that sort of tracery, like you can see it on the headboard, linen fold design of the 2 armoires there. That's a pretty standard imagery for Gothic furniture. Was it because he particularly liked that period? I actually don't think so. I just think that he was very interested in sticking to themes. And so it made sense for this level. He stayed in this room for about 10 years total. At some point it did become a guest suite. You do have a couple of family portraits in the room, so that's his mother, Phoebe, on the right-hand side.
Okay.
I want to say that was painted in the 1880s.
She was a big influence. He was a mama's boy.
Yes, absolutely he was. He spent so much time with her, traveling to Europe when he was 10 with her for 18 months on the Grand Tour. His father, George, is this gentleman with the beard over here in these 2 pictures. George made the money. George didn't spend a lot of time at home. We have a lot of correspondence between husband and wife, which has really helped kind of fill in the gaps in the story about what kind of relationship, what kind of dynamic existed in the Hearst family. That's a portrait of his mother there when she was much younger. And then in the middle is a picture of a painting of his mother's parents, I believe. Some of these were in here when he was here, but when the house became a museum in 1958, 7 years after William Randolph Hearst died, the family is not involved at all. She doesn't make decisions about design of a room, any architectural decisions, we really have no evidence that Marion participated in this. So we're not looking at her choices for her room specifically. Again, it's that theme, that overall Gothic theme that they're going with. So if you go for the Gothic period and you go for Spain or Italy, you're going for a very religious look. So, I mean, you've got Madonna and Child on every single wall, multiple Madonna and Child paintings. It gives you the impression that this must be a very religious man, and that was not the case at all.
No, but he wanted his lady to always be kind of virginal and not mixing with other people. Yes.
Even, I mean, as far as like controlling the roles she had in films.
The films,
right?
yes.
She was not allowed to be the Harlow.
She could
right?
never. She could never
Harlow
play.
character.
She had to play sweet, nice people.
Yes.
That's it.
I just came across a Mae West quote and I love it, and I don't know why I'm using it now because it really has nothing to do with what we're saying. But she says that she likes her dresses tight enough so you know she is a woman, but loose enough that you know she's a lady.
Yeah, she's a lady. Yes.
It kind of fits a little bit.
Yeah, it kind of fits.
The type of woman he was, he appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
So they did sleep separately. He kept very odd hours. His media empire spanned the globe, really.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't. The worst thing that can happen to a journalist is that somebody beats you to the headline, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's up working a lot, late hours. So I think it makes some sense as to why they might be separate.
Oh,
He's doing a lot
where
of
was
that
the
work.
playroom?
Yeah, but
These beds
Wherever
are
they
awfully
wanted
small.
it to be.
yeah.
These beds are awfully small.
What's the good of having
Right?
a lady?
There's not a lot of evidence for any of that. I don't know. Something that's been removed, which I think would actually help show how connected this place was, because it is rather remote. What we've removed are a lot of the telephones and like the technology of the time that allow him to be connected. He had the landing strip, he had airplanes, he had people flying him newspapers, delivering things as fast as possible. He had ticker tape machines, telephones, telegraph, so that's how you could be as connected as possible at that time. And so when he was in residence here, he could be reached by his image. The image that most people have of him is the one created by Orson Welles in Citizen Kane. And the younger, sort of more carefree William Randolph Hearst has been lost to history. When you read about his time at Harvard and you read about his time on stage and you read some of his writings, you can sense that old, like younger, more carefree, more whimsical personality that existed. But really, again, I think his